So now that we have turned the unit on, let's go through what the first screen looks like. You have three options on the first screen. As you can see, you can either do a new patient, a same patient, or you can do a short self-test. I'm going to run you through starting a new patient at this point. So I'll touch the new patient, and then you'll notice that there's a couple of options that you can pick from. You can either do the ideal body weight up here, or more importantly, people have wanted to be able to put in the actual gender and the height of the patient. So that's what I've selected for the beginning. And I'll dial in a certain height. I'll just kind of leave it there. And that's the first part of the setup. Now on the screen you'll notice a number of other areas on the screen. And in this area we kind of see what the mode selection is. And then below that we have the primary settings area. So now let's look at the available modes that you can select from, as well as the approach to ventilation. On the top here we can see invasive and we can see non-invasive. For our purposes we'll go ahead and start with invasive as an example. I also have assist control, SIMV, spontaneous, and bi-level as my choices for modes. I'm going to go ahead and stay with assist control for now. The next selection is the type of ventilation. It can either be pressure control, it can be volume control, or it can be VC+. I'll stick with the traditional volume control to begin with. As I select any one of these buttons, it will let me know what is available below that area. For example, if I did go over to SIMV, I can begin to see that there are other pieces of information that become available. For example, when I'm in SIMV, I can use pressure support, and I can also use tube compensation, which is abbreviated TC. If I go over to spontaneous, once again there are other feature sets that are available. So right here I can see that the spontaneous type can be either pressure support, it can be TC, volume support, or PAV+. And then below that is the trigger types of pressure and flow, and I'm going to leave it on flow for right now. So let's go back to my initial selection, and that determines the modes that I'm set up in. Now as I progress to the left, the lower left area here, we now determine what our set respiratory rate will be. So it's designated as with an F, standing for frequency. Now to adjust that frequency, I'm just going to use the knob to adjust that value. So I'll turn that up a little bit to 12. The next thing I'm going to do is touch the next one, which is the total volume, and I'll adjust that up, we'll just say to 500. And I'll work my way through the settings, which you're probably somewhat familiar with. So now I have the peak flow, and I'll turn that down to 60. Next one is that trigger sensitivity of 3. Your O2 percentage that you want to start with, and I'll just say maybe somewhere around 50%, 40%. Then you can select your high pressure limit here. So as a rough starting area, I'll just leave it at 40 centimeters of water pressure for now. You have the ability to put in a plateau time of up to 2 seconds as well. And you can change the type of flow pattern from either square or ramp. I'll leave it at the ramp. And then finally, you have a PEEP setting, and so you decide how much PEEP you want to put in. For my situation, I'll just put in maybe 5 centimeters of PEEP. And at this point, my next step is to press the start button. So once you're comfortable with all the settings that you've put in, just push the start button. Now the ventilator is really in a waiting for connect to the patient status. On the top we can kind of see that. It says waiting for patient. And I can push a confirm button to start ventilation, or I can just simply hook up the circuit to connect to the patient and it will start ventilating automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hook up my circuit to my test lung. One other option that you have when you set a patient up is you could just put in the gender and the height, and then you can go right to what's called a quick start. So if you're comfortable with all the settings, you need to get going very quickly, there is an option to go right to a quick start by simply putting in the gender and the height.